India has introduced E20 petrol, adding 20% ethanol nationwide, 5 years ahead of a schedule. But a wave of drivers is actually pushing back, reporting lower mileage, engine trouble in older vehicles and demanding choice at the pump. Now, the government counters that the claims lack any technical backing, while a minor dip in fuel efficiency around 1 to 2% for newer cars and up to 6% for older ones may occur. It maintains that routine servicing can address it. Let me quickly go across to my colleague Aishwarya for more on this, and she also spoke with customers about their views on E20 petrol.
Here in New Delhi at this petrol pump, we have been speaking to a few of the consumers queuing up to fill up their tanks here. And the board behind us, as you saw, says ethanol blended petroleum. Few are aware that 20% ethanol is being blended across petrol pumps across the country. In fact, online what we see is a heated debate brewing. On one camp, there are skeptics, and on the other, those who are in favor of the E20 petroleum being blended at these retail pumps. In fact, a survey conducted recently which says that E20 should be rolled back. This was a survey involving about 36,000 vehicles across 300 districts, and about 44% of them have demanded a rollback because they've claimed that there's been mileage drop that has affected the performance of vehicles and also impacted the engines. That is one camp. The other side, of course, is the government side, and they are saying that SIAM and ARAI tests have proven that this is economically beneficial and also environmentally friendly. In fact, Union Ministers Hardeep Singh Puri and Nitin Gadkari have both thrown an open challenge, saying that if you spot even one vehicle with any sort of issues being faced as far as the engine is concerned, he would like to be notified about that. So here are two camps, one criticizing it and the other for E20 blended ethanol.
Interestingly enough, I'm not seeing any discernible difference. As you can see, 89 mileage, maybe a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
Although I'm not entirely certain. I think I'll have to use it a couple of more times before I can give you a...
अगर इंजन परफॉर्मेंस उसमें नहीं अच्छी आएगी या फिर एवरेज भी कम आ रहे हैं गाड़ी के सुनने में तो ये भी आ रहा है तो फिर तो बेकार है.
लेकिन गवर्नमेंट इज सेइंग समथिंग तो इट इज बेटर फॉर द पब्लिक.
If it is suitable for the environment, it is good. If it is not suitable for the environment, then it is not good for the car or the car owners.
हाँ, फ़र्क तो है, मतलब एवरेज में भी फ़र्क आता है और उसका जल्दी से सर्विस मांग जाता है गाड़ी. जो इंजन खोलता है उस समय पे, तो उस समय उसका जो पार्ट्स अंदर जो चलता है तो वो मतलब घिस जाता है.
आपको इसके बारे में जानकारी थी कि ये ब्लेंडेड आ रहा है पेट्रोल?
जी जी जी.
And to give us more insight into this, we have Puneet Gupta, Director, S&P Global Mobility, India and ASEAN. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, and welcome to NDTV Profit, Puneet. Puneet, first give us your assessment of the E20 fuel rollout impact on India's automotive market, especially with most vehicles on the road not really being E20 compliant.
Great. So thank you, Sanjana. It's great to be here, but first to begin with, E20 is definitely a great initiative by Indian government, particularly in terms of, environmental perspective and also from energy security perspective, right? So, but another thing is, that obviously once you blend ethanol with gasoline, so the fuel chemistry changes, right? So, and when your fuel chemistry changes, obviously it will have some impact because ethanol is a low energy density fuel, almost 34% less than gasoline. So it means that you are mixing something, which has a less energy, and basically that will result in reduction of mileage. So I think, there is a feedback from the customers online and, from the surveys, which have been done, so clearly that's a pain point, for the customers today. And that is what we have been hearing. But then another problem is that the vehicles which are on the road, right? So they are not obviously E20 compliant, and the parts which were fitted in them, so obviously because of ethanol, there is always a risk, of because ethanol is hygroscopic, right? So there is a risk of water absorption, which can actually lead to corrosion, and it can also lead to softening of rubber parts. For example, hoses, seals, gaskets, right? So also obviously, on the old vehicles, these were not compatible. The new vehicles which are coming now, specifically after 1st April 2025, are flex fuel compliant, E20 compliant, and so there the validation of the parts have already been done. So there won't be any problem using E20 fuel. But for the older vehicle fleets, yes, there can be cases, which can emerge.
So, Puneet, can you comment on the automotive aftermarket? Let's talk about service, maintenance. Oh, we also have Hormuz joining us. Hormuz, let me then pose this question to you. Hormuz Sarabji, welcome to NDTV Profit. And if you could tell us, how is the automotive aftermarket? So, like I was just saying, service, maintenance, parts, how is that adapting to E20, especially regarding the need to replace a rubber fuel system components more often?
Yeah, well, I think, firstly, these are genuine concerns of motorists. I think, obviously, with E20 and ethanol, the corrosive nature is the biggest worry. Having said that, I mean, to be honest, some of it is a bit overblown. There's not going to be a catastrophic engine blow up or a failure. It's cumulative. It takes time. So these parts will wear out faster than they've been designed to. Some of them will. I mean, some brands, in fact, if you speak to them off the record, they have been E20 compliant for quite some time now. You might have a company like Toyota, which has been E20 compliant since the last 10 years. But, they're not going to say this right now because, they don't want to have any liability if anything happens. But I think fundamentally, this is really an opportunity for brands to kind of give let's say kits which you can retrofit and replace the parts which would be susceptible to corrosion and wear from the hygroscopic nature of ethanol with materials that are resistant to this sort of corrosion. And I think it's theoretically it's easy. Practically, it's also very difficult because when you start going really back into time and into cars which are 10, 12 years old, that becomes a lot more difficult because some of the cars have been discontinued. You can't let's say remake those parts with the new materials. But I think it's going to be the motorist is going to feel some pain. How much pain is something that is going to be very dramatically on a lot of things, how the cars are maintained, which are the brands, what kind of engines they are. Sometimes the older 1.2 NA engines where the ECUs are very basic and they can't adapt to the new fuel, they'll be affected more. New turbo engines, they'll take quite well to E20 because E20 has a higher octane rating, which no one has spoken about. In fact, the octane rating has jumped from 91 of the base fuel to 95. And that in itself, gives you much more performance, though the fuel efficiency is a concern, and that does take a bit of hit. So it really varies, and it will vary widely because it depends on driving style, maintenance, the kind of engines they are, how far back you go. So it's very hard to even put a percentage. So in some cases, the effect might be minimal, while as in older cars, it will be a lot more.
Right. Thanks for breaking that down so simply. Puneet, then can you elaborate on maybe your analysis, S&P Global Mobility's analysis that was regarding engine compatibility and the risk to older vehicles from E20? I know that you went into it in some detail, but in terms of mileage, in terms of engine health concerns that have been reported by car owners.
Yeah. To further deep dive, so if you see ethanol, primarily, as I said, it is 34% less energy density than oil, and if we compare it as 23 megajoules, per liter compared to gasoline, which has something around 34 megajoules, per liter of energy. So clearly, when you mix two, so it's bound to, happen that the energy, the chemical energy in that new fuel will obviously be less. And that is what is most most of the customers are reporting, because at the end of the day, you are burning something which has less chemical energy. Because if you see ethanol is actually a partially combustion has already happened in that fuel, because the oxygen there is bonded already with hydrogen and carbon, compared to gasoline. So clearly, that's one of the reasons why in ethanol, the energy density is relatively less than gasoline. And another part is, like as Humad said, one of the good points about ethanol is also it reduces knocking, right? And it's very clear, that if you actually fine tune your ECU and your engine, then actually this can lead to better performance of the vehicle, better power, in the vehicle. So for us, obviously one of the concerns, for the existing car park in India, will obviously be will be the maintenance issues, which may go and pop up, may not be in every car, because there is always a tolerance factor on which OEM works, so I think that way we may see, such issues not popping up in every car, but we feel that in certain, cars, there may be such issues which may pop up, because India climatically is also pretty different, right? For example, in cold cities, right? So we may actually see some kind of starting issues, because in some cases, because ethanol has a solvent property, so it can actually lead to clogging of fuel systems or fuel pipes, which can result, so but it may not be in most of the cars, but in one of our case it will be there. And we hope, because this is E20 is a nation initiative, and is something good for the country,
Okay.
because this brings us to self-reliance,
Right.
right? So clearly great move, by the government. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Puneet and Hormuz, for very comprehensively giving us a sense of whether this is a temporary bridge or a long-term solution in India's fuel mix, and of course laying it out very, very clearly for that.